Hello, my friend, and welcome to the CEO Soapbox Podcast, episode number 23. I'm your host, Neda, and this is where we talk honestly about business, how to grow it properly, lead it better, and stop making it harder than it needs to be. And today we're going to talk about set boundaries or lose profit. I know that's a big statement, but hear me out because here's the truth. A lot of CEOs, a lot of leaders think they have a time problem or people problem or capacity problem. Sometimes they do. But a lot of the time, what they really have is a boundary problem. And problems in business get expensive fast. They show up in wasted time, extra labor, scope creep, people asking you things that they should be deciding themselves, team interrupting too often, meetings that should not exist. Yep, meeting again. If you were listening to me, you know how much meetings give me eye twitch. Discounting that should never have been approved. And founders, leaders, you, my friend, getting dragged into decisions that should have been handled without them, without you. That's what I want to get in today. Because boundaries is one of those words that gets used so much it starts sounding a bit fluffy. Which is a shame because in business, boundaries are not soft or fluffy, okay? They're practical, they're operational, they are commercial. And when they are weak, my friend, your profit pays for it. Now, let's clear one thing up before we continue. This is not about becoming cold, hard to reach, or full of yourself, okay? This is not about ignoring your people. This is not about acting important, and it's definitely not about becoming one of those leaders who thinks being unavailable is the same as being strategic leader. That's not leadership, okay? That's just ego with a full calendar. What I'm talking about is much more useful than that, and it's very different to ego. I'm talking about clear lines. What get escalated and what does not. We're talking about a clear line about what needs your attention and what should be handled by someone else. A clear line or boundaries about what kind of work your business says yes to. Boundaries with what standards are not up for debate. Boundaries on what behaviors gets pulled up. Boundaries on what pricing you protect. Boundaries on who gets to decide what. And boundaries, my friend, where your involvement helps versus where it actually makes the business weaker. That is the real conversation. Because if your business only works when you are constantly stepping in, clarifying, rescuing, approving, chasing, and fixing things, then let's be honest, which I love to be honest, you have not built a business that runs well without you. And that's not a business, okay? You have built a business that still leans on you too much. That is expensive. It slows things down. It weakens ownership. It knocks confidence out of your people. And over time, it eats into your profit. And I've seen this play out in all sorts of businesses, from a startup to all the way to Fortune 100s. Yep, I've seen it. From the outside, things can look fine. Revenue is coming in. The team is busy. Clients are there. Everything looks busy enough. But underneath it, the business is leaking money because the boundaries are weak. People say yes too easily. Teams take on work they should push back on. Leaders avoid hard conversations because they do not want the discomfort. Some clients get special treatment that throws the whole business model out. The founders, you keep stepping into the things that they should have stepped out of months ago. And everyone gets used to blurry lines because after a while, blurry starts to feel normal. When something messy becomes familiar, then people stop questioning it. And you know what they call it? That's how we do things around here. Ooh, gives me goosebumps. And some of those habits are costing the business a fortune. I'm going to give you some example. Let me make it real. So I'll give you some example. You might resonate, you might not, or you might seen it somewhere. A CEO, a leader, an owner says yes to a client because the revenue looks good, but the client is painful. You know, they're the ones from hell. They are unclear. They keep changing their mind. They want extra work for free. They drag things out. They push on every agreement and they expect special treatment. Now, the delivery team is stretched. People are stuck managing drama instead of doing their job. Well, I guess if you own a business who got leaders in your business, then senior peoples are pulled into things they should not be dealing with. Other clients get less attention. That's scary. The team gets frustrated, and suddenly that good revenue is not looking so good after all. And that's not just a client problem. That, my friend, is a boundary problem. Or I can give you another scenario that I've seen it. Maybe a team member keeps bringing basic decisions up to the CEO. And if you're one of those ones, you know what I'm talking about. And then the CEO keeps answering them. Not because she loves it, not because she has spare time, but because it feels quicker. And in that moment, maybe it is quicker. But what are you teaching them? You are teaching them to bring uncertainty to you from the start instead of thinking it through themselves first. You're teaching them that you will carry the weight. You are teaching your team that they do not need to build judgment because they can just borrowing yours. That feels helpful in the short term, my friend. In the long term, it creates dependence. And dependence is not a growth strategy. It's a bottleneck dressed up as support. I've got another one for you. A business keep discounting to win work. Ooh, we've done that, don't we? The CEO says, it's fine, we'll make it up in volume, which is one of those things that sounds hopeful right before margin gets smashed. Then the team is expected to deliver this high-touch work on a low-margin terms. Pressure goes up, quality gets squeezed and definitely comes down. Your people get overloaded and business become more reactive. And then everyone wonders, and then you, a CEO, the founder, the owner, wonder why profit is under pressure. My friend, of course it is. You cannot keep breaking your own pricing rule, your own boundary, then act shocked when the numbers start looking ordinary. And this is why I'm going to share something. I get annoyed with the way boundaries get talked about online. Okay, a lot of advice, I'm talking about boundaries in the business sense to the CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs. A lot of advice is too personal and too vague when it comes to talking to the business owners. One other thing, protect your energy. Another one is say no more. Don't let people take advantage. This is something that women's get that a lot. Fine, not wrong, okay? I'm not saying it's wrong. But my friend, that's not enough. Because you, a CEO, a business owner, entrepreneur, an MD, a GM, you just don't need another personal boundaries. You do need that, but we're talking about the business sense. What CEOs need, they need business boundaries, clear boundaries around decisions, clear boundaries around clients, which clients we say yes to, which one we say no to, clear boundaries around pricing, around behaviors, around meetings, yeah, I had to push it in, around boundaries around escalation, boundaries around communication, boundaries around standards. That's where the real issue is. This is where a lot of good leaders get it wrong. Not because they do not care, because they do. They want to help. They want to keep things moving. They want to support the team. They want to keep the client happy. But there is a point where being helpful starts weakening your business. And that's the line too many leaders miss. You can be kind and still be clear. You can be supportive and still hold the boundary. You can care about people and still refuse behavior that makes the business harder to run. Boundaries are not unfriendly, my friend. They are honest. And honest businesses run much better. Another thing that lots of so-called business experts say is you just need good people. You just need better people. All right, sometimes it is true. Sometimes you made a mistake and you got shit people in your business. But sometimes decent people are working in a business that keeps sending mixed signals. The lines are blurry. The standards keep shifting. Too much gets pushed upward and too much still depends on the CEO. So many people start hesitating. Like, who owns this? Who decides this? Can we push back here? Is this urgent or are we just reacting again? Are we holding the line on price or not? And when people are not clear, they stop backing themselves, okay? They check too much. Yeah, you've seen that, right? They wait too long to decide. They escalate faster. And before long, the CEO is back in the middle of the things they should not be in. That's how dependence gets built. Not all at once, bit by bit. And the more a leader steps in, the more you step in, my friend, the more the business leans on you. That might feel useful for a while, but it does not build strength in the business. It builds reliance on you. Some of what leaders call dedication is really just stepping in too much. Some of what they call being available is really just being too accessible. And some of what they call saying close to the business is really just a business that still cannot run properly without them in the middle of everything. And that is a real issue. And it costs more than most leaders realize. Weak boundaries, my friend, do not just make you tired. They mess with the whole business. They create confusion. They create rework. They create inconsistent client experiences, and that's very dangerous for your business. They frustrate your best people. Again, another dangerous thing. They make weaker people even more dependent. They slow decisions, they muddy accountability, and they teach the business that clarity is optional. It is not. Clarity, it is not optional, especially in a growing business. Growth already adds pressure. Growth already adds complexity. Growth already tests your people, systems, pricing, leadership, and capacity. So when you pile weak boundaries on top of that, you do not get more flexible businesses, my friend. You get messier one. And messy businesses are expensive to run. They use more effort to get less result. Weak boundaries make the business work harder for less return. And that's a profit issue. Here's another thing that matters about weak boundaries. Weak boundaries at the top, this is for all the leaders out there, weak boundaries at the top creates drag across the whole business because people can feel when standards are inconsistent. Your people can feel when one client gets away with crap because the revenue is decent. They can feel when one underperformer gets protected because the boss hates conflict. Your people can feel when priorities keep changing because the loudest person gets attention. Your people can feel when asking upward is easier than owning a decision. And they can definitely feel when leadership says one thing but allows another. That, my friend, messes with trust. Not trust in a fluffy cultural sense. I mean real trust in how the business runs. Can I rely on what matters here? You know, those questions. Can I rely on how decisions get made in this business? Can I rely on leadership to hold the line when it gets awkward? Can I rely on standards actually meaning something? If the answer is no, people adapt. I'm telling you, they adapt. They get cautious. They adapt, meaning they get passive. They adapt, meaning they cover themselves. They adapt, meaning they stop using judgment. Or they quietly switch off. Again, yep, expensive. Because once people stop trusting the way the business works, they stop fully backing it. So let's call this what it really is, okay? This is not about being distant. It is about being clear. It is not about stepping back and washing your hands off everything. It is about deciding how the business runs, what needs your attention, and what should be handled without you. What needs your attention, what does not. What people are expected to solve before they bring it to you. What work is worth doing. What behavior is okay and what is not. What gets challenged quickly, what gets written down, what gets reviewed, and where being flexible starts costing too much. That is leadership. Not doing everything. Building a business where good decisions can happen without needing you involved in every single one. That is your work. That is the leadership. This matters because it changes how the business runs every day. If the boundaries are weak, everything gets noisy. Meetings get cluttered. Leaders, if you're in a business and you have leadership team in your business, they get fuzzy. Teams get dependent, clients get pushy, margin get squeezed, and you end up spending your time in all the wrong places. A boundary is not a wall, my friend. It is a clear line around what the business will and won't keep absorbing. That is the shift. Because once you see boundaries properly, they stop looking personal and start looking commercial. They become part of how the business protects time, standard, energy, profit, you and your people. Okay, now let's get practical because we do need to talk about practical part of it as to what to do. First, I want you to look at where your business is too available. Okay, if you're wondering where to start, that's where you start. Meaning too available for interruptions or too available for last minute changes, too available for client nonsense, too available for internal escalation, too available for extra scope, for price pressure, for poor performance, for vague accountabilities. Then what I want you to do is ask yourself, where are we saying yes too easily? This is where you can find out. Where are we taking on things we should be pushing back on? Where am I still, this is a big question for you, where am I still involved in decisions that should not need me? Where are my leaders asking me instead of deciding for themselves? Where are our standards soft in the wrong places? You can already see the sign, trust me. The same client drama, the same bottlenecks, the same leaders needing reassurance, the same team members waiting to be told. Oh, that gives me so much, I twitch. The same compromises you keep making and then regretting it later. Start there. So when you got that, then I want you to get clear on who gets to decide what. This is very important. When you find your bottleneck, when you find about everything, then we're going to get clear on who gets to decide what. Not in some massive workshop that sounds clever and changes nothing. I'm not talking about that. I like practical, okay? I mean in a practical, useful way. Very simple. Who decides what? What is each leader expected to own? When should something come to you? What should be worked through before it gets brought to you? Who can approve what? Because what goes to what, who decides on what, it's very different from who can approve what, okay? Then we're going to ask what can be approved without you. This is very important because it depends on the size of your business. You do not want everyone to go over everyone. So it depends on the size of your business. So what can be approved without you? This is very important as well. What absolutely cannot and will not get approved without you. Because when this is unclear, everything gets pushed upward. You got to be very careful, okay? And once that becomes normal, speed drops, ownership drops, and your calendar turns into a bloody mess. You've got a business to run, my friend, okay? You do not need to do all of this. That's why you employ them, right? Now, we decided on that. The third one, I want you to tighten your client boundaries. Ouch, I know. I get a lot of pushback about this because, come on, client is always right. I understand that, but you still need boundaries around your client. This matters more than people like to admit. And I know you go, oh, you just had eye twitch, didn't you? Not all revenues, my friend, is good revenue. And I know you know it because some clients cost too much to serve. Some clients wear your team out. Some clients push the model too hard. And some clients train your people to over-service and undercharge. They're expensive ones. You got to be very careful. Some clients chip away at standards slowly until your good people are frustrated and your margin is totally disappears. And you have to pay, might as well pay them back. You need to clear rule around scope, pricing, response times, changes, approval, and what happens when a client keeps ignoring how you work. Because if you keep bending the business around difficult clients, the business stops having any shape. Now, we create the rules around boundaries around clients. The fourth one, stop answering every question just because you can. Yep. That's on you, my friend. I know what you're saying, but Neda, we need to... No. Stop answering every question just because you know you can. Of course you are, my friend. You own the business. You started it. This catches a lot of capable founders. And I know it catches you too, my friend. You know the answer. You can fix it quickly. So you do. Again and again and again. But every time you do that when you do not need to, you take away a chance for someone else to think, decide, and grow in your business. And then later, when you say the team lacks ownership, it is worth asking how often you stepped in before ownership had a chance to build. Try this instead. When someone brings you a problem, ask, what do you think the right call is? Obviously, we already decided on number one, who gets to do what, right? So when someone brings you a problem, I want you to ask these questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions, okay? Number one, what do you think the right call is? You ask the person who comes to you, your team member, your leader. Number 2, what options have you looked at? Number 3, what are you recommending? Number 4, what is the impact? What is the impact of each option? Number 5, where do you actually need me? Not from the start, where do you actually need me? When you've done all of this, where will I come in? That changes the whole conversation. Now, they have to think before they bring it to you. And yes, at first, that can feel slower. And I bet it can give you eye twitch too, because you own it, right? You build this. But it is the kind of slower that builds better judgment, better ownership, and a stronger business for you. This is a trade worth making. 5th one, make your standards obvious. Okay. A lot of CEOs know what good looks like. A lot of founders know what good looks like, but they have not made it clear enough to everyone else in the team. For your people, They know when something is off. They know when quality is weak. They know when behavior is below standard. But if those standards mostly live in your head, people are left guessing. Say it clearly. What does good look like here in this business? What do we not do? What level of responsiveness do we expect? What quality is non-negotiable? How do we deal with issues? What does ownership actually looks like here in this business? Please do not assume people know. If you think common sense, what did I say? Common sense is that common? My friend, is not that common. You know it's not common, okay? So spell it out. Keep it simple. Is that KISS? Keep it simple, stupid. Clear standards reduce noise. 6, I want you to pay attention to what you let slide when you are tired. That is when a lot of bad calls get made. You are busy, I get it. You're over it some days. You want the issue gone. You know that customer, stop calling me. So you say yes. You let it slide. You approve the exception. You avoid that hard conversation with the team member who've been slipping, sliding, slipping and hiding. You just do it yourself. I understand it, but repeated exceptions become the new normal way very quickly. And the business is always learning from that from what leadership allows. And then they say the culture becomes what you don't see or you don't say. So when you're tired, overloaded, or frustrated, that is exactly when you need to be more deliberate, not dramatic, just deliberate. Because the line you blur today becomes the problem you deal with tomorrow. Now, you might be thinking, yes, but we need to stay flexible. Sure, I'm not saying the business should become rigid, okay? I'm saying flexibility should be a choice, not a habit. There is a difference. Deliberate flexibility says we are making this exception on purpose because the upside is worth it and we understand the cost. Weak boundaries say we keep letting things slide and pretending it's strategic. Those are not the same, okay? One is leadership, the other one is a drift. And drift is it's dangerous because it does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it just looks busy, looks generous. Sometimes it looks customer focused. I've heard that a lot. We are customer focused and the customer is screwing you. Sometimes it looks hands-on because you stick your nose in the places you shouldn't, my friend. Until you look at the numbers or the team fatigue or the founder dependency or the rework or the margin, then it becomes obvious that what looked like flexibility was actually leakage. Profit does not only disappear in one big disaster. It doesn't. It gets chipped away in a small, tolerated things. Because most CEOs are watching the big numbers. Revenue, margin, pipeline, cash flow, as they should, as you should. But underneath those numbers are daily leadership choices. You know, those little small approvals, those little small exceptions here and there, those little small hesitations to call out something that it shouldn't happen in the team, and the team shouldn't have done it. That little small rescues, that small moment where someone should have held the line and didn't. Over time, those small things shape the business you end up running. So if the business feels too dependent on you, if the team keeps escalating too much, if clients take liberties, if pricing disciplines keep slipping, if accountability in your team feels fuzzy, if your leaders still need too much from you, if the business is growing but feels heavier instead of clearer, do not just ask, what system do we need? I want you to also ask, where are the boundaries weak? Because sometimes what looks like a systems problem is really a leadership problem. The standards has not been held, and if that is the issue, more process will not save you. more process and procedures will not save you. Sometimes the fix is clearer expectation. A firmer, no, we don't do that. A better rule. A clearer role, a cleaner role, a conversation that should have happened months ago. A client standard that actually gets enforced, or you getting out of the middle of the things your team should own. This is the point of this whole conversation. CEO boundaries are not just there to make your life easier as a CEO, my friend, even though that would be nice, but you've got so much on. They're there to stop the business from becoming messy, dependent, and expensive. They protect decision quality. Boundaries protect standards. CEO boundaries protect ownership. And yes, they protect profit. So, if I was going to leave you with one main takeaway, it would be this. Every time you fail to hold the boundary the business needs, the business pays for it. Maybe in money, maybe in time, maybe in energy, maybe in slower decisions, maybe in weaker ownership, maybe in frustration, usually in a mix of all of them. And that is why this matters. The job is not just to grow the business. The job is to grow it without turning it into something heavier, sloppier, and harder to run. That is the real standard. Not bigger for the sake of a bigger business. Better run, better led, more disciplined, more profitable, and less reliant on heroics. That is the game. So, have a proper look at your business this week. Ask yourself, where are you too available? Where are the lines too blurry? Where are you tolerating things that are costing more than they're worth? Where have you confused being helpful with making the business weaker? Those questions will let you know a lot. And they are a hell of a lot more useful than another post telling you to protect your energy with a smoothie or sunrise walk, okay? Nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I'm just over it. Thanks for joining me on the soapbox today, my friend. If this episode made you laugh, wince, not aggressively, and quietly think, shit, that's true, make sure you subscribe and please share it with another business owner, another leader who probably need to hear it too. And if your business is doing well on paper, but behind the scenes still feel clunky, reactive, or too reliant on you, my friend, reach out to me on LinkedIn, because fixing that takes a real work, and that's exactly the kind of work I do. I help the CEOs and business owners with this. Wishing you an amazing week ahead. Until next time, stay curious and stay kind, especially to yourself. Bye for now.